government is elected to govern for the greater good. And government in this country does not govern for the greater good. It governs for the people at the margin. As far as tax reform and so on is concerned, it's blindingly obvious what has to happen. Nick has talked recently about GST reform and so on, but it's unlikely to happen. And the major reason for that is that we don't have a crisis. Without a crisis, nothing is going to change, and we will have a crisis. It's just a question of when.
In fairness, what the New South Wales government, the new one, or not so new anymore, tried to do with Infrastructure New South Wales was to try and get beyond the political cycle, because it's perfectly obvious that even if you could get agreement on Western Sydney airports and fixing the road networks and so on, you're not going to do it within the political life of probably any government, even the New South Wales one, which is likely to be there for a fair while, I would think. So the government, given its straitened financial circumstances, is trying to make a commitment that hopefully will transcend politics.
If you live in the northwest sector of Sydney where there is no public transport and you want to drive to the CBD and back, it costs you in tolls about $25 a day. If you live in Maroubra, it costs you nothing. So why should the new people who have to live there because of the sprawl and the planning system, why should they pay all of this money for the privilege of owning a house and all of this money for the privilege of driving to the central business district to go shopping when the existing people got a free ticket?
The government's got a long-term transport master plan, it's got our plan, and it's got a metropolitan plan, which is the planning department's effort at land use, the things you were alluding to. And all of those are being brought together, and the government at the moment is in the midst of a process sometime before Christmas of providing answers. And look, I'm fond of saying it makes no difference what's in the state infrastructure strategy, except as it affects what actually happens. I mean, the fact that most people kindly think it's a good plan is interesting but irrelevant. The only thing the public care about is what actually happened. Look at all these no-go areas in Australia. No-go areas about how you fund things, how you tax things. And clearly one of the no-go areas is the labour market. Now, how you can have a serious discussion about productivity, how you can have a serious discussion about the economy and trying to drive economic growth when, again, sort of both sides of politics say, well, the labour market's a no-go area, it's sort of a definition in the absurd.
At the moment, our politicians have choice, because if they don't agree, it doesn't matter. We just sort of lurch on to the next thing. It's when we get to the point where the governments have no choice but to sit down together and work it through. And I think they would get a loud round of applause. And if they see the public actually applauding that kind of behaviour, so that the opposition's job is not just to oppose, it's to actually be constructive in its criticism, then I think there might be a turning point that comes out of that. And I'm, coming back to Ross's point, quite optimistic that that turning point is going to happen.